We're now going to look at notes for section 10.3 and talk about experimental probability. Now, experimental probability means you actually do the experiment. So probability that is based on repeated trials of an experiment is called experimental probability. And you put the number of times the event actually occurs over the total number of trials. So here we have an experiment. This bar graph shows the results of rolling a number cube 50 times. So this is what actually happened, not theoretically what should happen. So it says, what is the experimental probability of rolling an odd number? Well, our odd numbers are 1, 3, and 5. So looking at the chart, we rolled a 1 10 times, we rolled a 3 8 times, and we rolled a 5, it looks like 11 times. So we take 10 plus 8 is 18, plus 11 would be 29. So 29 out of 50 times, we rolled an odd number. Now, it should theoretically have been about half, or 25 out of 59, so it's interesting to look at the difference. Okay, here's the next one. It rains 2 out of the last 12 days in March. If this trend continues, how many raining days would you expect in April? So in April, or in March, it rained 2 out of 12. And we're saying, how many would that be in April? We're looking at the calendar. It sees that there are 30 days in April. So we want to know how many of those it's going to rain. So we're back to proportions here to figure out the number of rainy days in April. So you're going to cross multiply and divide. And you get 2 times 30, which is 60. And then you've got 60 divided by 12, which is say it'd be rain about 5 days. Okay, this one's not on your notes, but let's look at this example. There are 25 students' names in a hat. You choose 5 names. There are 3 boys' names and 2 girls' names. So how many of the 25 names would you expect to be boy names? So let's go back to our proportions again. We know that for boy names, there were 3 boy names out of the 5 you chose. So that was 3 out of 5. So we want to know how many would that be out of the 25. So look how we set that up. So you cross multiply again. 3 times 25 is 75. You divide that by 5. And you would find out that there should be about 15 boys if everything stays the same. Alright, so that was experimental probability. Now we're going to look at theoretical probability. This is what should happen in theory when you're actually working things out without experimenting. So when all the possible outcomes are equally likely, the theoretical probability event is the number of favorable outcomes out of the possible. So here you have some blocks. They're not colored on your paper, so look up here if color matters. It says you randomly choose one of the letters. What's the theoretical probability of choosing a vowel? Our vowels are A, E, I, O, and U. So we've got 1 vowel, 2 vowels. Looks like we've got 3 vowels out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 3 out of 7 is the theoretical probability of getting a vowel. Now we've got this bobblehead here. This is on your notes, just not the picture. The theoretical probability of winning a bobblehead when spinning a prize wheel is 1/6. So you don't know how many sections are on the prize wheel, but you know 1 out of every 6 has a bobblehead as a prize. Oh, sorry, it says the wheel has 3 bobblehead sections. 1, 2, 3, you'd say. So how many sections are on the wheel is the question we want to answer. Well, I know the probability of getting one is 1 out of 6. And I know there are 3 on the whole thing, but I don't know how many total there are. So that's how you'd set up your probability. Cross multiply. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 divided by 1 is 18, which means there's 18 sections on your cube. Now, this is not on your notes, but I would like you to look at this. This bar graph shows results of rolling a number cube 300 times. It says, what is the experimental probability of rolling an odd number? So we know our odd numbers, 1, 3, and 5. So we would add these numbers up. 48 plus 50 plus 49. So quickly add those up. 48 plus 50 plus 49. We'd have 147. So experimental probability would be 147 out of the 300, which is about half. 150 would be half. So how does experimental probability compare with the theoretical probability of rolling odds? We know the theoretical probability is 1/2. So we would say it's very close. Now it also says here to compare the experimental probability in part A to experimental probability as an example. Now part A, I've got it here so we remind ourselves. When we talked about it before of rolling an odd number, we had 10 plus 8 plus 11, which was 29 out of 50. Well, let's just find the decimal equivalents of these. So 147 divided by 300 gave us 0.49. But 29 divided by 50 gave us 0.58. So what I'd like you to notice is if you do 300 experiments, you're going to get closer to 50% than if you only do 50. The more you do something, the closer you get to your theoretical probability. And that's what we want to understand as we look at the difference between theoretical and experimental. Now, your homework for this section is on page 417, and when you're done, you need to do your homework quiz.